Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life Was Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Camus. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. This tour spotlights the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets and selected historical houses within each community. Today's episode will be discussing the St. Matthew's Church, located in Springfield, Mass. So tell us of the history of the St. Matthew's Church.
It is in Indian Orchard, and it was the first Catholic church in Indian Orchard. And it was for all comers, the Irish, the French Canadians, and the Polish. They would later build their own ethnic churches, but this one from 1864 was the first. It was only a few years after St. Michael's in Springfield was made. So that shows you how old it is. And the rectory next to it from 1878 is also quite nice looking. And they're very distinctive. Alright, we're going to talk about this church was in Massachusetts and what has become of it and how it fits into its neighborhood today. But it's very significant because this Indian Orchard is a whole village, and there's only one village in Springfield besides the whole many neighborhoods. It's this one village. It's an industrial village. And so this church served the people working on the Indian Orchard Canal for a century. And thus its history is very important and fits into its community very well.
And what is the significance of the church within Western Mass?
Well, when you're that old, 1864, you immediately think, oh, how does it fit compared to the other old Catholic churches around? Well, and where does the name come from? It used to be a predecessor for St. Matthew's Church. It was in Springfield when it first made in 1845. And it was the first Catholic church ever in Western Massachusetts. But it was a small wooden church, and it ended up being replaced by this church. It took on its name for itself. And that's very important to remember. Why did the other one go away? Because the Holy Name Church of Chicopee was built right across the street from the St. Matthew's Church, which started out in Springfield, but when Chicopee came in existence in 1848, they now had St. Matthew's Church in Chicopee, right? And it served all of Western Massachusetts. But when that started to go away and the Holy Name in Chicopee was built, I believe 1857, the name was available. And it was a good old church name that was already recognized among Springfield residents. And now that's how it took on its name. Now, compared to all the other churches, the Catholic churches in Western Massachusetts, it might be like number 8 or so. So it's extremely old.
And quickly, before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and texts of historical sites throughout as well. And for private tours and other inquiries, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun educational outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, what has become of the church?
It has aluminum siding on it now, and so a lot of the architectural details are now gone. Same with the rectory, and that's sad. It was sold about 18 years ago, I think, and it's now a Turkish mosque, and so it's a fine use. What they did though is took out the interior all the pews are gone, because in mosques you don't have pews, you sit on the floor. So that's changed drastically. And the stained glass window, of course, is gone. So lots of big changes have happened, and it doesn't look like its majestic former self. So that's too bad. The Catholic diocese, of course, needed the money, and Springfield didn't have a local historic district placed upon it, and so it went away. And even the street that it's on, a lot of buildings are now gone, so you can't tell what it used to look like.
And how does the church fit into the neighborhood of Indian Orchard?
All right, now, the other two ethnic groups, major ethnic groups like the Polish, built their own church called the Immaculate Conception Church in Indian Orchard. The French Canadians built St. Aloysius also, and those two churches came very soon after 1900. So St. Matthew's fit very well into its use there because it was for all ethnic groups. And it also had formerly a school right behind it. That was moved soon, about 1900, and deeper into the Indian Orchard neighborhood, 2 blocks away from the church. And it had a convent with it that also was moved along. And they don't exist anymore, but there's still buildings up there. The former old school is no longer there.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can check out a large selection of other podcasts on his website as well as on SoundCloud.com.